Alrighty guys, so in this tutorial we're going to look at doing a few more interactions with our fluid surface, and we're also going to learn how to fake floating or fake buoyancy of objects. The reason we have to fake it is because unfortunately UDK does not have any inbuilt buoyancy or sort of inbuilt floating mechanisms, but it's easy enough to fake using some physics, so let's get on and do that. The first thing we're going to need is what we want to actually float in our surface. So I'm just going to go up to the content browser. Just going to tick on static meshes, and I'm going to do a search for crate. Okay, and this is the crate I'm going to use here. So I'll just drag and drop that static mesh into the scene. Now here you can use whatever static mesh you want. You just need to be aware that the larger the static mesh is, physics are applied to it differently. So if you are going to use a larger or a smaller mesh than the one I'm currently using in the tutorial, you're going to find that the numbers that you're putting into the parameters a little bit later, the values you put in are going to be a bit different to mine. So now that I've got the static mesh on the stage, sorry, one other thing is the static mesh must have collision. So forgot to mention that, but if you see it popping up saying no collision model, you won't be able to use it for the purposes of this. So the one I've got is all good. I'm just going to right click on it now in the scene with it selected, and I'm going to go, I want to go to convert, and I'm going to convert this static mesh to a KActor. So now that it is a KActor, if I jump in, I should be able to show you that I can now interact with that object, and it will be dynamic. So it's just going to sit up there in gravity and do nothing, and then if I shoot it, then it gets some gravity applied to it, but then yeah, just goes under the surface, treats the surface like it doesn't actually exist. So we need to fix that now. So we'll do that by clicking on the crate. I'm going to go to F4 to bring up its properties. Now as we go through, we have wake on level start. This is purely just before you saw me having to shoot the mesh to get it to actually start doing something. If you put wake on level start, it means it will instantly have physics applied to it. So if I then go and start the level with this ticked, it will just drop without me having to interact with it. So I'm going to leave that on just for ease of testing. The next thing I want to go, yes, I want to limit the max physics because I want our physics to be constrained to the realm of kind of Earth, I guess. Max physics velocity can probably stay at 350. Next thing we're going to go down to, let's go down to collision. And we want collide complex to be switched on, and we want the no encroach check to be switched off. Now if I close that down, bring this actor over the water and jump in and play, we should see it now interacting with the fluid surface at least. Still won't be floating. Cool, so you can see it's dropped into my surface, and the surface has recognized that there's something is colliding with it, so that's really cool. So now it's time to get it floating. So the way I'm going to do that is go up to my content browser. I'm going to go to the actor classes tab, and in the search box here I'm going to do a search for RB, and under the physics tab here we can see the RB cylindrical force actor, which is the one I want. So I'm just going to drag and drop that into my scene. Just close content browser for the moment. Now, much like we did with our volumes, we're going to have to get this in the right place in the level. So I'm just going to go to my orthographic viewport, so I can get the side view. Zoom out a little bit to see where my force actor is. So I'm just going to go and scale it up, so it's going to be the. Just going to make sure it covers the entire swimmable, or the entire area I want things to be able to float in. And the next step is just to make sure it's meeting the fluid surface at the top, which mine pretty much is, so I'm happy with that. Now I just have to scale it out over the sides. So get it roughly in the middle, non-uniform, so I just scale across. That's looking pretty good on that side. Let's have a look here. Let's go non-uniform again, stretch it out. So now to me that's looking like all my swimmable areas are all covered. Okay, so I'm just going to pop back into my game viewport here. Go up to my content browser and go across to scene. And I'm just looking for that new cylindrical force actor that we've put in. Now with that selected, I can have access to its properties over here. Okay, so the two main things I'm going to change here. The first thing is force active. I'm going to click that on. That will basically turn on the physics force there. The next thing I'm going to change is the lift strength, which I'm going to set at, I'll set this at 2000 initially just to see how it looks, but definitely probably be going back and changing that one. And I'll just minimize that for now and jump in scene and see if we're getting some kind of floating. There we are, look at that, beautiful. Still not entirely realistic at the moment. To me that that crate's probably bobbing a little bit too high out of the water, so just going to go back to my content browser, which mine is minimized. Back to my scene, grab my force actor again, and what I'm probably going to do is I'll reduce the lift strength down to probably about 1000. Let's see how that looks. Okay, now to me that's looking a bit better, so it's just kind of looks like it's just rolling with kind of one corner out of the water, which is pretty cool. So obviously you can do a whole bunch more changes in the actual cylindrical force actor itself, as well as changes to the K-actor to make a few different things happen. So one change we can make to the K-actor is if we go in and do a search for upright, we can click this one here, enable stay upright spring. So I'll switch that on for a moment. Get rid of that. Okay, and with that set on, now any K-actors, this K-actor will do its best to make sure that it can stay upright. So if I were to drop this one, we noticed our last one was kind of rolling on its corner. If I drop this in, it should pretty much drop kind of straight down and just be bobbing up and down on the spot. Mostly. But we can see it's not allowing itself to flip over, which can cause some odd artifacts, as we can just see there. So this kind of thing can be used to actually make some gameplay elements. So if I move this box so it's underwater, not colliding with the ground, just get it so it's slightly above the surface. Probably there will do. I might make it a bit bigger as well. It's looking pretty good, so it's just above the water. And what I'm going to do now is just hold down Alt and then drag out another copy, hold down Alt, drag out another one, so on and so forth. Make a few copies, and basically what you can do with this is you can actually make a dynamic floating bridge, or a kind of a dynamic jumping puzzle. So if I were to actually jump in and play now, so you can see that all the crates have kind of fallen in their spot. I probably need a bit more lift now that I of course because I resized them, they're now heavier. So easy way, I'm just going to go back to the first one before I resized it because I know I've already got my settings right. So yeah, that's what I was talking about before. So if you do change your K-actors, or if you're using larger ones, smaller ones, whatever, you're going to have to change the way the physics have been applied. So if I drag all these out now, I'll jump in and have a look. We should have some kind of a floating bridge happening. So there you go. So they're floating, they're reacting with the surface, but they're doing their best to stay upright. So if I were to actually go and interact with it and touch one, I can knock them off course, maybe. There we are. So I can knock them off course, but they'll still do their best to stay upright. So they will stay as a platform then, if you wanted to create a bit of a jumping puzzle or something like that. And then you have the basics of interacting K-actors with fluid surfaces and faking buoyancy using UDK physics. So you can muck around trying a few different things. You could use different force actors to create sort of otherworldly effects if you like. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of fun to be had, and a lot of tweaking to try and get the effects so that it's realistic. So that's pretty much it for the mandatory part of these tutorials. I will be going on after this one to create a more advanced water shader. It is entirely optional, but I do suggest that you do the tutorial. Just you'll likely learn a lot out of it. So thanks very much, guys, and have fun making water. See ya.